So a few months back, I started a fresh save in Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, and I named it Soviet Masochist. I thought that was a funny little joke at the time, but it was not a joke. It turned out to be a pretty accurate warning, and then I ignored it for 26 streams straight. In that time, I built a country up from an empty patch of dirt into a working socialist republic. Oil refineries, coal mines, a steel plant, 2 whole cities, and about 7,500 citizens who mostly hated me. I also froze an entire town to death, lost my whole population twice, spent 900,000 rubles in one accidental click, and played a full hour with the game paused without noticing. So this is what 100 hours of Soviet suffering actually looks like. So let's grab a drink and let's get started. Quick bit of context for anyone who has never seen this game before. Workers and Resources is a city builder, but calling it a city builder is like calling a rocket ship an airplane. Technically true, but you're really gonna have a bad time. In most city builders, you drop a road, zone some houses, and the little people show up. In this one, nothing shows up unless you personally arrange for it to get there. Every brick, every worker, every drop of fuel has to be made somewhere, loaded onto something, driven down a road you built, and dropped off in exactly the right spot. Break one link in that chain and people can't get to work, the factory stops, the money stops, and the whole place quietly starts dying while you are busy looking somewhere else. And I did not play it on easy. I played realistic mode, hard money, starting in the year 1920. No modern trucks, no shortcuts, and the part that still makes me laugh, I did the whole thing without taking a single loan. Not one. I decided early on that a real Soviet masochist does not borrow money, he just suffers through it. Oh, and for the record, this was my 5th crack at this game. The first 4 republics all died, usually because I bet the entire economy on a clothing industry that never once turned a profit. So going in, the bar was low. Build one city that does not collapse. That was the whole dream. Spoiler, I made it so much harder than that. The first few streams are just pain. Beautiful, pointless pain. I picked a spot on the eastern coast of the map, turned down the version of the save that starts with people already in it, because that felt like cheating, and started laying mud roads in the dirt like a caveman. Construction offices, a heating plant, water, sewage, power switches, I second-guessed about 40 times, and a whole block of brick flats for people who did not exist yet, and would not for a long, long time. Nobody really warns you how a 1920 start works. You build the entire city first, and then you invite people in. So for the first several in-game years, I am just pouring money into a ghost town. No population, no income, just me, a cough I could not shake, and about 1.5 million rubles slowly turning into buildings. And I made mistakes. I built the whole water system and forgot to put in a water tower, which is a bit like building a car and forgetting the engine. A building caught fire. I realized I had no firefighters, so I just sat there and watched it burn down and collapse. My happiness rating hit 18% at one point. 18. That is not a city, that is a hostage situation. But I kept repeating the same thing to myself over and over like a little prayer. 1920 start is brutal, but we're doing it. And then, somewhere around year 6, the first 110 immigrants finally moved in. My ghost town had people. Cold, miserable, badly looked after people. But people. Now we get to the reason the whole map exists. Oil. The entire early economy was supposed to hang on one thing. Pump oil out of the ground, put it on a train, sell it at the border. Simple, except getting there meant laying miles of rail with these ancient track builders that deploy one at a time and move at the speed of continental drift, plus a truly cursed web of pipes that kept telling me the pipeline was too long. So I ended up burying half of it underground and running power all the way out to the oil fields just to make it shut up. And then it finally happened. The first oil train pulled up to the border with 70 tons of crude on it. My first real money in the entire save. I was so proud. Ah, I said, the fruits of my labor. That train took 10 hours of in-game time to do the round trip, and it earned me somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 rubles, which is nothing. It is a rounding error, but it was mine, and I earned every miserable ruble of it. Now, my favorite disaster of the whole series was not even in the game. One stream I am sitting there fixing a power shortage. The in-game city has lights flickering, not enough juice, the whole deal. I am deep in it, rerouting cables, and then the stream just ends. Cuts out at 19 minutes. Why? Because my actual house lost power. I got knocked offline by a real power outage while I was fixing a fake one. You cannot write that. At that point, the Soviet masochist thing stopped being a bit and just became a documentary. And for one glorious stretch in the middle, everything just worked. The oil refinery came online. This thing is a monster. It needs 500 workers and about 12 megawatts of power, and the research to unlock it ran something like 1900 in-game days. When it finally fired up, I completely lost it. It's happening, boys. Easily one of the best moments of the whole playthrough. Then I made one change that flipped the entire economy. Early on, I was hiring expensive foreign workers, so I tore out those bus lines and switched to using my own citizens instead. Profits jumped. I literally called that stream Profit Paradise. I sat there watching 150,000 rubles land in a single month, telling chat with total confidence that money was no longer a problem for us. I said the words, "We are millionaires," out loud, on camera, to everybody watching. If you have ever played a management game, you already know that sentence is a curse. But for a while, it was real. I built highways, made roads one way to kill the traffic jams, gave people cars and parking lots so they would drive themselves to work. Sports halls, pools, schools, an orphanage, all of it. I even started planning a second city because the first one was going so well. This was the top of the mountain. Population climbing, money rolling in, happiness sitting at 90-something% for reasons I still can't explain. Hold on to that picture of me, relaxed and rich, and calling myself a millionaire, because that guy has absolutely no idea what is coming. Here's how one of these republics actually falls apart. Not all at once. One small mistake at a time, and every single one of them mine. Start with the day I lost the entire city. I load into one stream, and my population has dropped to 197 people, from thousands. The session before, I had been messing with bus routes, took one line out and added another, and that jammed up a bus station, which meant workers could not get to the heating plant, which meant the heat went out, which meant everyone froze. I had to reload a save from before I touched any of it. I built a beautiful little economy, and then killed it with one bus route. And that became the pattern. There was the stream where I upgraded my water pipes, and halfway through the swap, cut the water to the whole city. Happiness dropped to 26%. My educated people, the doctors and the engineers, just packed up and left. I watched the population slide from 6,000 down to 3,000 while I sat there. The funny part? My bank account was totally fine. I was, and I am quoting myself here, back to $1 million while my citizens fled in the streets. Rich republic, empty houses. There was the coal stream where I built out an entire industry, feeling great about myself, and then noticed the game had been paused the whole time. None of it had happened, and then on top of that, an auto replace setting glitched and tried to replace every vehicle I owned at 0% wear, which blew 923,000 rubles in one motion. I had to reload the save twice to walk that one back. And this whole time, remember, I am sick. I had a cold that hung around for about 2 months. If you go back and listen, you can hear me coughing through basically every episode. So picture it, a wheezing man, alone, telling a virtual train to go home, you're drunk, for the 40th time, calling the whole thing Train Simulator 2026, while his citizens freeze and his savings disappear. That is the Soviet masochist experience in one sentence. I said it out loud around here, actually. I don't think we had in mind to have a 10,000 population city. I think we should have just built a new city, which is a very calm way of admitting the whole thing had completely gotten away from me. I should point out that none of this was happening in a vacuum. These are live streams, so all this slow motion economic collapse was running alongside my actual life. Streams would just end because I had to go pick up my kids. One time a kid wandered in asking for pizza, and I had to accept that the Republic was going to have to wait. Another stream, a baby woke up mid-sentence, and I had to pause everything. And at one point, I left a track builder running and went fully AFK to go pick up an actual puppy from the groomer. So somewhere in this saga, there's a solid half hour of a Soviet Republic just idling quietly while I dealt with dog stuff, and I also would not have made it through any of this without chat. There is a regular in there, a legend named Mirror, who bailed me out of my own disasters more times than I can count. Let's be real, half my good decisions this whole playthrough were just me reading a fix out loud that somebody else typed and then acting like I thought of it. The game did its part to keep things stupid too. I proudly unlocked a helicopter construction office, built the heliports, felt like a genius, and then found out I cannot buy a single helicopter until the year 1964. And at one point I realized I was paying money to throw away my own aluminum scrap, importing and dumping the exact thing I was already making. One bad decision that pretty much sums up the entire Republic. You know the Empire is in trouble when the stream title is just "We are running out of money." By this point, I had founded that second city, Auburn, and I was dumping everything into finishing it. Water, garbage, a hospital, food, housing, all at the same time. And that million rubles I was so proud of, gone. I was running something like 147,000 in imports a month. Steel by itself was 61,000. I was importing food, chemicals, one completely random shipment of 122 tons of clothing, and the money just poured out the bottom of the whole thing. So I had to start making Soviet decisions. Citizens were auto-moving into houses in Auburn that did not have heat yet because the game fills housing whether it is ready or not, and they were going to freeze. I looked at that, shrugged, and said out loud, I'm letting them all die. Nobody should have moved in there anyway. It is cold in the Republic, that one is on them. But hitting bottom is usually where you finally spot what was really wrong. My refinery, the crown jewel, that 500 worker monster, had been quietly starving for oil this entire time. So I started importing crude straight in by train to feed it, and all of a sudden, fuel and bitumen production took off. I was exporting tens of thousands of rubles of the stuff. The thing that was supposed to make me rich from day one finally started making me rich. About 100 hours too late, but hey, it happened. I ended that stream stressed, broke, and weirdly proud of myself. I feel very accomplished, I said. We just need to recover in terms of money. Which is an insane thing to say about a country you almost bankrupted, but that is the sickness. This game gets right into your head. So we get to the finale. The stream I literally titled The End of Our Republic. And I want to be straight with you about how it ends because that title is a little dramatic. The Republic did not collapse. I did not lose. I dragged it back into the black. The reason I called it the end is way dumber than that. I wanted to play something else. I was worried the channel was turning into a workers and resources channel, and I am a base building and automation guy. I like variety. I wanted something fresh. So I hopped on and said, all right, everyone, this is the last one. We are wrapping up the Soviet masochist saga. Thanks for watching. And then in the same stream, I completely folded. I said, and this is on tape, I just want to keep going. I can't stop playing this game. I announced the end of the series and then unannounced it about 90 minutes later. I even admitted the channel was dying with me just playing this game, and I can't stop playing. It's just so good. So that is the actual ending. It did not blow up, and it did not get some heroic victory lap either. I set out to quit my own series, and I could not do it. The Republic survived. I'm not sure I did, at least not as a person with hobbies outside this game. So what did 100 hours in the most punishing city builder ever made actually teach me? A few things, and I paid full price for every one of them. 1. Build your water system first and build it properly because in this game, water is the fastest way to wipe out your whole city, so treat it like it is dangerous. 2. Do not build a 10,000 person city when you still cannot run a 1,000 person city. Getting greedy is what kills these places. 3. Check that the game is not paused before you spend an hour being a genius. And 4. The big one, this game will punish every single mistake you make, and somehow that is the exact reason I love it. And this is the part I keep coming back to. I named it Soviet Masochist as a joke, and the joke turned out to be the whole point. The reason 100 hours went by, the reason I could not quit even after I told my own audience I was quitting, is that the suffering is the fun. Every frozen city and every drunk train taught me something, and every fix felt like it meant something, because the game actually made me earn it. So no, my Republic did not end in a glorious collapse or a perfect victory. It just kept going, a little broke, a little on fire, held together by trains that do not want to be there, and a guy who will not stop building, which is probably the most Soviet way this could have gone. If you made it this far, thank you, seriously. Drop a like, it helps way more than you would think, and subscribe if you want to see whatever beautiful disaster I ruin next. I will catch you in the next one.